Hello again and welcome to the Memoir channel. My name is Nikki Smart and today I'm going to be speaking with Genevieve Kingston about her memoir, Did I Ever Tell You? Now this is a heartbreakingly beautiful memoir that Genevieve wrote because her mom passed away when she was 11 years old and left behind a box full of letters and trinkets and presents for Genevieve that she could have to help guide her as she became a young adult. So there was a letter for every year that she had a birthday till she turned 30. There was letters for her graduation, for when she got her driver's license. I mean, the mom was trying to give her everything that she thought a daughter would want to hear and have. So it's lovely. This book is doing incredibly well. The New York Times has been talking about it. It was on Good Morning America. It was the buzz book of the week. So Genevieve is doing incredibly well. Let's go talk to her and find out a little bit more. Welcome, Gwen. Thank you so much for being on the Memoir channel.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so I am amazed you're doing so well. I mean, this book just came out, right? It's only been out for a
Came
month.
out on April 16th. Yeah, yeah.
How does this feel for you? It's thrilling. I mean, I'm thrilled for you.
It's completely thrilling. It's a total dream come true. I often joke that the first draft of this book was My Mom Was Cool, The End by Gwen Kingston. I really was excited to get to share some of her story. I think she was really kind of a remarkable person. And so
Absolutely.
to get to share her words, her wisdom, her life so widely with readers is just it fills me up in a way I never could have dreamed of. I'm so
Uh,
excited to share her with people.
I'm so happy for you because I mean, it's such a beautiful, lovely, generous, such a gorgeous gift. And so, yes, I'm glad that everyone gets to hear about it and enjoys it too. And I mean, it's uplifting, it's wonderful. So, okay,
I
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, thank you for describing it as a gift because it's all about like the gifts that my mom gave me, right? So it's
Yeah.
the story of her putting together this incredible box before she passed away with gifts and letters for all my birthdays until the age of 30 and for getting my driver's license and graduating high school, getting engaged, getting married, having a child. And so I was given such an abundance. And so to hear the idea that I get to pass some of that on and
Mhm.
give that gift forward is a really, really joyful thing.
Yeah, lovely. So I know that you've started writing this book when you had just three letters left,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And okay, so I want to ask, first of all, how long did it take you to write this book?
So from sort of first conception to handing in sort of the final draft was probably about 2.5, 3 years, something like that. But
Okay.
I wrote the bulk of it in the course of about a year and a half.
And when did you know that this is what you wanted to do?
So by training, I'm an actor and playwright, and I was, in New York, very passionately trying to make my way in the New York theater scene. And then in 2020, all of the theaters closed,
Yes.
and I felt that I needed to write differently. And I was sort of trying to figure out what I was interested in, what I wanted to be writing about, and it was sort of like this story that had been just in me, I mean, for sort of my whole life suddenly rose to the surface. Because the other thing is that I was 31 at that point, and I had opened all of the birthday gifts. And as you said, what was left in the box was engagement, marriage, baby. And I was trying to figure out whether those were things that I wanted for myself, for my future. And I think it's an age when a lot of folks are asking themselves those questions about what they want from life and are perhaps turning to their parents' example, either something they want to replicate or something they really don't want to replicate. But either
Right.
way, we're looking at what we were taught about what the meaningful parts of life are. And so I needed to answer that question for myself. I felt like it was time to go back through all of my mom's letters, all of her notes, everything she had told me or taught me about the kind of woman that she was and the kind of woman that I wanted to be. So I started kind of feeling around the edges of this story. I really felt like I was feeling around in the dark, trying to find my way in. And then as sort of an exercise for myself to determine the scope of the project, kind of beginning, middle, and end, what's the major dramatic question? Why am I feeling this urgency around it now? I wrote this shorter piece that was kind of an encapsulation of that story. And after I finished that, I showed it to some friends, and we thought, hey, this could sort of stand alone. And I was able to place it in the New York Times Modern Love column, which was
Right.
absolutely wonderful, because I got to, again, sharing her story. And then that was amazing, because then I got to hear from all of these people who, after reading, I shared a bit of my experience. They were then willing to share their experience with me, which was an incredible gift. Hearing
Isn't
from
that lovely? It's so lovely. Yes, it's when they see your vulnerability, then that allows them to open up as well. Yeah.
exactly, and people dealing with such different kinds of loss, or grief, or craving more connection with their parent. Maybe their living parents they were craving more connection with. I mean, people from all sorts of different stories, backgrounds, found something to connect to, which
Right.
makes me happy.
Yeah. I mean, it almost sounds like you had this wonderful parenting. And some people don't even get that, right? You're right, from a parent that's alive. So,
I know. I do feel very lucky to have had the mom that I had for the nearly 12 years that I had.
yeah.
Certainly was.
Um, can I ask you, how many letters does your brother still have? I know you have this older brother, Jamie, right? And he also got this chest full of wonderfulness. So how many letters does he have left?
He's all done. He's older than I am, so he's also in his 30s, and he did the marriage thing quite young. He got married at 22 and had twins very quickly thereafter.
Wow.
Yeah, so he did his big life events really really early on. And I
Wow.
think that for him, I don't think he was older. He was a boy. He was headed off to college. I don't think he needed the chest in the same way that I did right after our
Mhm.
mother died. I think it became more meaningful to him later when he was going through those big life events, and to
Right.
know he had prepared for him and thought of that. And there's a great moment in the book where he's going to propose to his girlfriend, the mother of his children. And he asked me to go into his box and he said, I know there's an engagement ring in there. I need you to find it, and I need you to tell me if it's a good ring.
And you have a really close relationship with your brother, right? Yes.
Oh yeah, he's along with my partner. He's my favorite person on this earth, and
Ah,
yeah, we're incredibly close, which I feel so grateful for, because we were forged in the fires of the same losses,
right.
and that doesn't always lead to closeness. Sometimes people need different things from their grief, and it can really pull people apart, which is normal and
Yeah.
fine. But I just feel gratitude that for us it happened to bring us very close.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. Um, okay, so I was going to say, I watched a little bit of an interview you did with Books Are Magic, and one of the people in the audience said, "Did you ever peek ahead?" And I thought that was quite an interesting question, because I'm sure everyone must ask you that all the time now.
They do. Everyone seems amazed that like a 12-year-old girl with a box of birthday gifts in her bedroom like
Right.
doesn't kind of
Right.
go
She doesn't
through.
just rip open all of them. Yeah.
And I think so people always say, "Oh, you must have so much patience and willpower and all of this." And I'm like, "Not really. I don't consider myself a very patient person, but I'd read a lot of fairy tales, and there was such a fairy tale magical quality to the whole thing. I sort of felt like we know what happens to the person who doesn't follow, the
Uh-oh.
fairy tale instruction exactly. Like it might go really badly. And so, yeah, myths, fairy tales. I don't know. I knew that this was something to that I needed to honor and keep for myself. And I'm so glad I did, because it means that I've had this conversation with my mom going for about, over 20 years now, since she passed. But
Mhm.
as I said, I think in that event as well, I did peak just once. It's at the very
Mhm.
end of the book, and I think it was for a very good reason.
Yes. Okay. Um, and then I was going to ask, have you ever written back to your mom?
Oh, what a beautiful question. And the answer is yes. Every year, on the anniversary of her death, I write her a letter, thanking her for being my mom, and telling her what's going on in my life. And then I burn the letter. And for me, that ritual feels good. Feels
That's lovely.
Yeah.
So when did you start doing that? How old were you when you started doing that?
Gosh, I can't remember. I can't remember whether it was the very first year after she died or if it took a few years. But
Wow.
she really steeped me toward the end of her life. She got very interested in different kinds of spirituality, which I think happens a lot when folks have a long illness. And she really steeped me and my brother in the importance of ritual, and rituals that don't necessarily have to be religious, don't necessarily have to be connected to any particular tradition, but that they can be meaningful just because they can be anything, but just the
Mm-hmm.
intention you bring to them can give them meaning and feel quite healing.
I
So
mean, that's so lovely. I'm so proud of your mom. She did such a fantastic job.
me too, me too. And I want to say that one of the things I'm most proud of her for is that she really, I discovered, over time that her preparations for us weren't just inside the box. She had asked all of these people in her life to be resources to us if we wanted to get to know her better, because, she was just our mom when we were kids. And there
Right.
comes a time when maybe you want to know your parent as a person. And the fact that the offer was to allow us to know all of her if we wanted, and the tough stuff too, the rough edges, the mistakes, um, the difficult emotions. I mean, she wasn't trying to preserve this perfect picture of herself as this perfect mom, right? She wanted us to be able to know all about her complicated life if that was something that we wanted.
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant because yes, because otherwise it's not the authentic thing if you're only seeing the good side. I mean, you always feel there's something not quite right. So,
Yeah, no, and
wow.
that's an image that stays with me from my childhood, which was quite idyllic in a lot of ways. But I think that was hand in hand with the darkness that we were all living with, that we knew that our time together was limited. And I don't know that we would have had all of the kind of flamboyant childhood pageantry that we did if
Yes.
we hadn't also known that this might be the last time, right? This might be the last birthday, the last Christmas, the
Right.
last.
Yeah. Wow. And I know you were saying it was exhausting to have everything be so full throttle all the time because it might be the last one, it might be the last one, it might be the last. So you have to make the most of it.
It's unsustainable. I really think this thing of living life to the fullest is like, it's all very well, but like you kind of, at a certain point, you have to be free to waste some time and
Yeah.
not be so
Yeah.
intentional about everything.
I mean, the part that got me was when you were very little and you didn't want to go to school because you were worried that she wouldn't be there when you got home, and that's just so heartbreaking. I'm like, oh, poor little you. Oof. So do
Yeah.
you think that writing this, did it help you did it shift things around for you? Did it help you? I mean, it sounds like you're pretty good with your grief, that you've sort of come to terms with things and you've got a very healthy way of dealing with it. And this obviously helped you. This, not just the box itself, but actually now writing it all is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of therapy. Big
Mhm.
fan. And I had a wonderful therapist all through my childhood. That's another thing I really credit my mom for, was getting us into therapy as children. So we had somewhere to talk
Ah,
about.
brilliant.
Um, but yeah, no, it definitely shifted things for me writing this book. In fact, the final sort of event, the final story beat of the book, which I won't spoil, happened while I was writing it. Like the kind of the ending of the story happened while I was already in the process of writing it.
Ah,
The direct result of all of this reflection I was doing, of all of
oh
this,
my
like,
gosh, I love that. I love that.
in
That's
fact,
just,
I was a little embarrassed when it happened. I was like, this is too tidy. I can't end the book this way. It's like, it's too on the nose. And it's like, you know what? Sometimes life is on the nose.
but I feel like that's the universe going, here you go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
lovely. So now, would you maybe read a little bit of your book for us? Is there some part you would
I would
quickly?
love to do
Ah, yay.
that. All
Um,
right.
I'm going to
So,
put you in speaker mode, so it's all you.
okay. So this section is this is the very first time that I ever opened the cardboard chest. So this is 10 days after my mother passed away, and it's the morning of my 12th birthday. My mother and I shared a birthday, and any other year I would have run down the hall and crawled into her bed. My father would have brought us hot chocolate or a bunch of flowers and called us the birthday girls. My mother would have squeezed me and said, as she did every year, the best birthday present I ever got. Instead, I stayed in my bedroom, delaying the moment I would have to open my door and find her gone. For months, the cardboard chest had sat on the floor of my bedroom, and I had tried to ignore it. During those months, the chest had represented a future I'd hoped would never come. Now I moved slowly from the bed and knelt beside it. I drew the latches back one at a time, making the moment last. When I lifted the lid, the first thing I saw was a large black spiral-bound sketchbook with 2 red pears on the cover. My breath came faster as I pulled it out and opened it to the first page. Dearest Gwenny, a record of letters and keepsakes put by to acknowledge and celebrate significant life events. I've made this record for you just in case something happens to the letters and keepsakes themselves. The pen I used to write this record, I also give to you, and may it give you pleasure. Love, Mommy. Clipped to the binding was a green and gold fountain pen, the kind that used wet ink. I pulled it free, feeling its surprising weight in my hand. Tears blurred the words on the page in front of me. My mother had shown me the sketchbook years before, and, like the chest, I'd pushed it to the back of my mind, another tool I didn't want to learn how to use. I measured its thickness in my fingers and pressed it to my ribs, hungry for the words promised inside. Beneath the sketchbook, the chest contents came almost to the lip, boxes of different shapes and sizes fitted together in a 3-dimensional puzzle. I searched the top layer of packages until I found the one marked Gwenny's 12th birthday. It was a cardboard box patterned with seashells tied with pink, curling ribbon. Holding it in my hand, I felt the first sharp twinge of curiosity to see what my mother had chosen for me. I untied the ribbon and opened the box.
Oh, so lovely. I just thought of another thing. So did you always open your presents and letters on your own, or were you ever in the company of other people?
I always did it alone until the very last birthday present, my 30th birthday. I had my brother was in town and staying with me in New York, and a friend had come, and we were just all. I felt so connected on that birthday to the close friends and family who had gathered to celebrate that. And so I was born just after midnight. And so we stayed up until midnight the day before my birthday. And at night, I opened up that last birthday gift with everyone. And that was I felt held in that moment. Because it's another kind of ending, another kind of goodbye to come to the end of those,
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, you still have a few more.
I still have a few more, and there's something really lovely and comforting about that. I love that there's a little left in the box. But I also wasn't as sad to come to the end as I thought I might be. I really think that they've done their work, and it's not really about the objects, or, I mean, it's about having her words, but the presence, it's really more than the objects. It's about having felt so cared for and so deeply thought of,
Yeah.
and that gets inside you and works on you.
Yeah. So I was wondering as well, obviously, as you were growing up, you saw other people interacting with their parents. And I mean, as people become teenagers, they get kind of mean and nasty. Did you ever see, your friends mistreating their moms and just going like, you don't understand, you don't know what you're doing?
Oh, I'm sure there must have been a little bit of that. I'm sure there must have been a little bit of that. But I also, I talk a lot in the book about the fights my mom and I had. Like we had our share of fights, even when I was a kid, because I had a lot of feelings, and I was in this like very like kind of buttoned up Anglo-Saxon, British on both sides family in California, and I was just this little like. I was just so full of feelings, and they didn't quite know what to do with me. And I talk in the book about those fights and how, I was aware that this is what a normal mother-daughter relationship is supposed to look like. There's supposed to be friction. There's supposed to be individuation. There's supposed to be, all of that. And
Right.
I missed out on the serious teenage years of it all. But I was careful never to end an argument with like, I never told my mom I hated her. That felt like off limits somehow.
I can't do that. Right.
Context, but we had friction. Like we weren't this perfect little dollhouse family being great
Yeah.
to each other all the time.
Well, I know that I remember you saying that, I mean, as far back as you can remember, your mom was sick because she was diagnosed when you were 3. So I imagine this made you sort of have to mature a little bit quicker than necessary, than you would have had she not been sick,
And
because
some,
it's such an adult thing to have to deal with.
yeah, it's interesting. I think it was double-edged. I think that I had to develop a pretty sophisticated emotional vocabulary pretty early, and in that way, I was felt older than some of my peers. But in another way, it made me kind of unwilling to grow up in certain ways because I really feared the passage of time. And so I talk a lot in the book about my intense, crippling homesickness that plagued me for really the first kind of 20 years of my life, but
Hmm.
really bad when my mom was alive. And so I both felt like I was having these experiences that my peers hadn't had yet and felt older, but I also like couldn't go to a slumber party when all my friends could. So I felt younger.
Yeah, yeah. Ah, wow. Well, it's amazing that you have such insight into your own behavior too. I mean, that's fantastic because that really helps when you can actually understand yourself. That really helps to deal with things, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to have your adult brain go back and look at your child behavior and go like, that makes sense. You were you were doing your
Yeah.
best.
So, I mean, I know this has all just come out and it's all, you've just finished this, but I'm going to ask you, are you working on something else? Like, what do you have? What is happening in your brain now?
I'm currently writing a play. Very glad to be back to my theater roots. Very excited to get into a rehearsal room again and workshop things with actors. It's just one of my greatest joys. But I find that when I'm working on something, I really can't talk about it because it diminishes my need to actually write it.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
find it so satisfying to talk about things I haven't written yet, and then you're like, great, well, that's what a good idea. I've done my work for today.
And what is one of your favorite memoirs?
Oh my gosh, I have so many, and I read so many during the year. I was just devouring them while I was working on this. The pairing that I always recommend to people because I think it's like this just multifaceted, delicious gift is Autobiography of a Face by Lucy Greeley, read in
Yes.
companionship with Truth and Beauty by Ann Patchett, which is about her friendship with Lucy Greeley, both before, during, and after she wrote that book, about her experience with losing part of her jaw to cancer as a child, many failed reconstructive surgeries to her face, and just the experience of constantly feeling like your identity is in flux because you're sort of unrecognizable even to yourself so much of
Hmm.
the time.
Hmm.
Both books are beautifully written, deeply felt, and you get to feel like you're inside this friendship. And it's such, I think they're both so generous.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, she's since passed away, but
She
she,
passed away from that thing. Yes, yeah, I remember that being sad when I found that out. Um, anyway, well, okay. And what's up next for you in terms of book tours or marketing or appearances, or what are you doing next?
I am I'm doing a few in-person things. I'm a brand new writer, first book, so it's hard to, so I'm not doing a lot of in-person things because no one knows who I am. But I did 2 wonderful events in New York. I did an event in LA, and now I'm headed this weekend. I'm headed to Tampa, Florida, to do an event at Oxford Exchange, which is an amazing bookstore. I'm very excited. And then the next weekend, I'm doing Interrobang Books in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, fantastic. And I mean, I saw you were even this, I don't know, was it the Buzz on the Good Morning America? What was it? You're the Buzz pick or something?
Morning
That's,
American Press pick. I was
that's
so honored.
fantastic. It's
I got to
brilliant.
see the cover of my book for a moment on that big screen in Times Square, and I just about
Ah,
fainted. I couldn't believe it. It was like, it was a moment out of someone else's.
wow.
Couldn't believe it.
No, well done. That's fantastic. Well, it's all well deserved. So
Thank you.
enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. And thank you so much for speaking with me today and for taking the time because I know you're busy, busy, busy.
I absolutely. It's my favorite thing to talk about this book. So thank you so much
Uh,
for that
yeah, you're
opportunity.
very welcome. All right. Bye.